Hi, my name is Sunny Bhangle, and I'm the owner of SunnyBhangleFitness. And I just want to say thank you so much for checking out my website and especially checking out this video. I just wanted to share my story of search for purpose in life that led me to a number of dead ends and produced a lot of frustration and hurt until I turned to God's purpose for my life. So I grew up in Vancouver, Canada, in an amazing home with parents who love me and care for me, and with three crazy siblings. My family is Punjabi, so I did grow up in the religion of Sikhism, and I grew up believing in God in general, but didn't think too much about it, especially not when I entered into high school. And like most kids, the path to rebellion was a lot more appealing than the one striving for academic achievements. But slowly but surely, I found myself wrapped up in a lifestyle that only had a downward spiral and had a strong hold over me. And eventually, at the age of 19, all of the mistakes that I had started to really, that all the mistakes that I had made started to really feel heavy on me. And I didn't know why, because I regretted some things that I had done, but I figured it was life and everybody made mistakes and I was just doing what the crowd was doing, right? But no matter how much I tried to shake off this feeling of just guilt and shame, I couldn't. And yeah, it was really weird. And not only that, but I started to have a deep void deep inside me, and I tried to ignore it, and even just try to fill, my time up and just stay busy to try to ignore it. But I knew deep down inside that I really did want to be a good person, and I didn't want to keep making the mistakes that I was making. And so I tried to become that good person by doing things out of my own hands. I stopped jumping from one relationship to another. I cut out a lot of relationships that weren't healthy, and I tried to stop using recreational substances that I was using at that time. And I stopped going to the parties that I would get invited to, and just in general, just the lifestyle that I was a part of. And I had a pretty filthy mouth too, so I tried to clean that up on my own and thought, that somehow I could figure it out. And I even thought that maybe if I moved out and moved to another country like Japan, that if I went there and started teaching English, that maybe that would somehow fill this void in my life. And every time I tried to turn to something to fill this void, I just kept getting this deep sense of, no, that's not it. No, that's not it. And I even tried the whole God thing. And since I grew up in Sikhism, I started to get up early in the morning and sit in front of the photos of the prophets that our family had in our house. And, I would read the scriptures in Sikhism in my attempt to pray and connect with God. But I remember sitting there and just thinking, why do you seem so distant, God? Why, when I need your help the most, when I feel like I am at the lowest point in my life right now, why, when I'm trying everything to get your attention by being a good person and following all these rules that I'm supposed to follow, why are you so limited to these pages and these pictures? Why do you seem so distant, And any road that I was trying to take or even contemplate taking, I kept getting that deep sense of, no, this isn't it. So I felt just horrible, I was so hurt from the relationships that I had been in, and I just felt without purpose in life. There are things that I can't even mention in this video that have been done to me, and things that I have done myself. That I can't get into, but needless to say, I was desperate for a fresh start and just really wanted to wipe my slate clean, but knew that I couldn't do it on my own. And I was just like, I'm such a bad person. How in the world, with all the stuff that I've done and all this guilt and shame that I'm carrying, how could I get a fresh start, without being born again. And I was just so discontent, especially because I would go out and live this lifestyle that my friends were living. But why couldn't I just keep living like them? I'd ask myself, why was I the one that would come home and regret everything that I was doing, but everybody else carried on like it was normal? I was hopeless. I was without peace. I remember clearly the night that I even tried to take my own life. That was the darkest place I have ever been in my life. And feeling so alone, so helpless, so hopeless. But regardless of my attempts, he wasn't ready to let me go. It was the day after my 20th birthday. I got a phone call from, on my parents' landline, right? So odd. From a friend of mine that I hadn't spoken to in about 7 years. And she came over the next day, and it was a breath of fresh air, just having somebody with a good lifestyle to talk to. And I just really wanted to get out of my house. And so she's like, "Hey, get in my car, we're gonna go out." And I didn't even care where we were going as long as I was getting out of my cave. I found myself that night entering unknown territory. I went to church. I had never been to a church in my life. I had seen it on TV, but really knew nothing about Christianity, was not interested. Even me being there, I wasn't there thinking, oh, I'm going to find out what Christianity is about and I'm here to seek God. No, none of that. But anyways, I walked in and everything was so different. Of course, I was comparing it to the temple, so that's what I mean when I say it was all different. It was a huge culture shock for me to see men and women sitting together in the sanctuary, since at the temple, men and women sit separately. The church was loud. There was a band up front. I'm not used to seeing that. So it was just super, super different. And on top of that, the service was in Spanish, with some translation, but I couldn't understand a thing, and it went on for a while. Needless to say, I felt awkward and completely out of my element, and I sat through the service hoping that it would end soon so I could go hang out with my friend and just have some girl time. And finally, when I thought it was actually over and everybody stood up, they had actually stood up to pray. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be reverent and just close my eyes and pray the way that I know how to pray. And as I closed my eyes, I remember hearing the pastor inviting anybody if they wanted to come to the front for prayer, and I had no idea what that meant. And I even opened my eyes to look around to see if people were, seeing this invitation for me to go. And I opened my eyes and looked around, and no one was looking at me. So I was like, okay then. But then my friend looks at me. She's like, "You want to go? You want to go to the front?" And I was like, "Yeah, no thanks." And I closed my eyes again, and that's when things started to shift. I saw my life flash before me like movie clips of all the baggage that I was carrying, all in raw footage. My true feelings started to surface as I stood there with my eyes closed, and the feeling of just being hopeless, broken, full of shame, it all started to creep up on me again. And I heard the pastor make the invitation one last time. And I heard that voice again, the one that always gave me that sense of deep, no, don't do this, in the past, except this time, it was telling me, yes, this is it. And I could not ignore that voice, that sense, that nudge, especially since for the first time it was starting to fill that void that I had deep down inside. So I thought to myself, you know what, Sunny, you have tried everything else. What do I have to lose by giving this Jesus a try? So I looked over at my friend and I was like, "You want to go with me to the front?" And she was just crying because she knew that the Holy Spirit was working in me. And I walked up to the front and got on my knees and knew nothing. And just by faith, I got on my knees. And instead of calling out on the God I knew growing up, I called out on Him. The moment that I said the name of Jesus, the atmosphere changed. Everything around me changed. His love was like a flood that poured out on me. His peace covered me completely. His love, so pure and so authentic. My burden felt like it was just taken away. All in one moment. The power in His name was unreal. And I remember standing up, opening up my eyes, and I knew in the core of my being that I was given a second chance. I knew that I was seeing through a different pair of eyes now. And I remember going home that night, sitting on my bedroom floor, and for the first time opening up the Bible. And I started reading from the book of Genesis, and I was blown away at how amazing this God was. Everything that I had wanted to know about Him was there in these scriptures. And not just that, but His presence was with me. He was a God that wasn't distant anymore. He was right there. And, that began my journey of wanting to know, who is this Jesus? Who is this amazing God that chose to invite me, that He came and seeked me out? I didn't have to go follow a bunch of rules. I didn't have to go and be convinced by anybody, but He came and found me, and He met me exactly where I was, just as I was. I didn't have to clean up my life and follow a bunch of rules, And what I love about Jesus is that He never pushes His way into anyone's life. He gives us an invitation and leaves the choice up to us. And I am so thankful that I chose that day to take that step of faith. Living this life with Jesus at the center doesn't mean that it's problem-free. I have faced a lot of hardships in my life since being a Christian. I face the same afflictions that anybody would. And if you get a chance to read through some of my blogs, you'll get a better understanding of even my current circumstances. But regardless of the pain, the hurt, and the craziness that life throws my way now, the difference is that He is my strength through it all. His grace gives me the drive to keep going every single day. I live a life now that is full of purpose and joy in the storm. My identity is in Him, not in the way that society portrays a woman to be identified. I am confident, I am successful, I am a strong woman who knows her worth. I'm not identified by my beauty or charm, although I have both. I'm not defined by a man, regardless of how many suitors there are trying to get my attention. My identity is just solely in Jesus alone, and I am who I am because of Him. Nothing in this world could ever get me to turn away from this amazing God. I am loved. I am forgiven. I have hope. I have an amazing future, and I have promises in Him that I wouldn't trade for anything else. And if you've been searching like I was and finding only dead ends and just feeling hopeless, wishing there was a way out, I encourage you to open your life to Christ and just let Him help you discover and fulfill His purpose for you. All it takes is a step of faith, like the one that I took that night. My biggest desire isn't to have a huge number in followings or to create a business that, brings in so much money. God has placed a vision in my heart to use this platform of health and fitness to glorify and honor Him. And if there's anything that I've shared that's touched your heart, if you have questions or if you'd like me to pray with you, I would love to hear from you. there's a section at the bottom of this page that you can share your thoughts with me, and I'd love to hear from you. So I really hope this has been of encouragement, and I just want you to remember that He isn't done with me, and He surely is not done with you.